Welcome to this episode of Business with Papa. I'm David Bland. I appreciate you joining me. In this episode, we're going to talk about something that is difficult to believe, and it's frankly unpleasant. Okay? But you need to understand it. But before we do, let me remind you what I always do. Look, there's a lot of people who are publishing and posting things on the internet about a whole range of topics. Okay? And sadly, a large number of them have no idea what they're talking about. They're either really good speakers, they've read a few books, not really sure what would motivate them. I can assure you, it's not my favorite topic doing this. I do it for a reason. And so as a result, the advice and counsel you may get from those people of how to start and live your dream, your own business, may not be particularly healthy or helpful. So what I encourage you to do is we have recorded a history and a background for me and what I have done and what has brought me to this point. It talks about my qualifications, a little bit about my experience, and also my motivation for doing this thing that you are now watching. I strongly encourage you to look at it, to understand who's telling you something, so you can judge the value of the information you're being given. Moreover, I encourage you to do that about most things you find on the internet, so that you are living a successful life. You're traveling a path that you want to travel, and you're not being sent down dead roads because somebody wants to post on the internet and either be famous or collect ad revenue. Now, with that said, let's talk about what I want to speak about tonight, which is effectively the leadership role you are about to take on. What I want you to understand that it's hard to fathom is that you, whether you want to or not, are going to change. So a few years back, and if you watch the intro, you know that we also have a commercial building that we bought to run my company in, and eventually ended up leasing it out, or parts of it out, to entrepreneurs like you. And I had an individual that came into the building, really nice guy. I mean, a more gentle, kinder individual you're not likely to run into. It's just hard to describe how nice he was. And he was running a business in which niceness counts, because his company was providing help to folks who weren't quite able to take care of themselves, but also really didn't need full-time care. And so I had counseled him some, provided him some advice, told him some things about my experience, the same way that I'm doing with you, only of course with him it was in person. And one of the things I told him early on, his name was Jeffrey, I said, I'm just going to tell you that this is going to change you, and you're going to get tougher, and you're going to get more harsh, and it's unavoidable. And so please know that's what you're in for. Jeffrey's a nice guy. He's somebody I still communicate with. I know he didn't believe me, and it's okay. You don't have to believe me either. And that's okay. But after he'd run his business for about a year and a half, in a conversation he and I had one day, he shared with me, you know, you were right. I have become harder. I have had no choice in having staff. And honestly, in some cases, having customers. And where you're the final word, you have to build up a shell to survive it mentally. Okay? And he learned that, even though he was taught that or told that early on, he also learned it and experienced it. So let's share a little bit about what it means, not necessarily to sit in this chair, but sit into the figurative chair that I'm talking about. As you found out in the opening session, episode 1, if you will, I had a pretty broad career before I opened my own company. I was 40 years old when I did it. Obviously, since I started working at 8, if you recall that, and was running a business at 15, I had encountered an awful lot of things prior to opening the company. Most of it helped prepare me for what I encountered in doing so. But until you've done it, and you've really done it, it's hard to describe it to anyone. You know, folks talk about the 1%, and I don't want to get lost in that. But I hope you find out what it means to run a big and successful and strong performing company. The perks that come along with it, they are nice. There's no denying it. The things you can do, the opportunities you see, the flexibility you have in your life, that's a great thing. And of course, that's what people see. And so that's what they think it's all about. Okay, but I'll tell you, that's not where it ends. What they don't see is the 80-hour work weeks, the 100-hour work weeks, the constant problems that you are tasked with resolving, the employee challenges where people either get violent or threaten to get violent. Okay? The threats to you, the threats to your family, all of those things happen. That's not all. My experience, the more successful you get, the higher you climb, if you will, in the commercial ladder, you're going to find people that you encounter, both in your operation as well as clients, that are going to want you to do things that might violate your ethics, might violate the law. And you're going to be the one that has to decide whether you're willing to do them. The problems that you will face will force you to become harder. You will see things, and I have. I've seen things with employee conduct, in spite of the fact that I spent 15 years before I opened my own firm managing staff in major companies. You always have an HR department. You always have another manager, right? When you sit this chair, you are it. And so I've seen things out of staff members I would never have thought they would do. But it was my job to deal with it. You will have issues, again, as you grow, with insurance companies. Things will happen. People will break into your facility. They will steal stuff. Employees might steal stuff. You will have people who will be injured. You'll have worker compensation issues. You will have a range of those kind of problems. You will eventually find your way to dealing with banks and other sort of financing choices, right? We've talked about that in another episode. You will find all kinds of requirements and rules and submittals and questions. It's an endless array of things that you're going to have to learn, right? Do you know about all the financial reporting? Do you know about taxes? Are you aware of unemployment compensation in your state or any other state which you may employ staff and have to deal with their laws, not your laws? Do you know how much trouble you can get in state X. I won't name any states because I don't want to, I'm not interested in telling you about the real experiences of dealing with various states, but I did. You'll run into rules that they've created, and you look and frankly make it impossible for you to fire an employee who is stealing from you. It is astonishing the things that you will find, all of which will jade you with regard to the human nature and will make you hardened so that you actually have the ability to address and cope with all these things without wanting to pull all of the hair out of your head, throw up your hands, and quit, in spite of the fact it's your company, right? So I want you to know this is what's coming to you. Okay? If your firm grows and you're successful, which I'm going to assume that's what you want. Now, so that we don't just talk about ugly things, because they are certainly there, and I want you to not be surprised as they come. I've done a lot of interesting jobs in my life, as again, you can see from some of the information in episode 1, but I didn't cover anywhere near all of them. Okay. But I will tell you there is nothing to compare to pitching yourself against the world in making decisions and running your own company and actually get to the point where you can make a living for you, for your family. Maybe you can create something that a banker once said to me that looks like generational wealth. The satisfaction in knowing that you, from nothing, all the challenges that you face, were able to see your way through this complicated thing called business is astonishingly satisfying, no matter how much you had to pay to do it. Because you know that what you thought and you hoped you were capable of doing, you are, in fact, proven to be capable. So, thank you for joining this evening. I want you to know it's worth every bit of it. If I had to do it all again, all the issues, all the challenges, all the disappointments, all of the death threats, all of the opportunities where we made a difference in the world, I would. Until next time, it's Papa. See you later.